Shuffles. You've probably heard it said a million times that every drummer should know their way around the shuffle groove. And you're gonna have to add me to that list as well because shuffles are an essential part to any drummer's repertoire. Drummers like Bernard Purdie, Jeff Porcaro, and Steve Gadd all reach legendary status in part because of their mastery over the shuffle. You'll be hard pressed to play a gig that doesn't require you to play at least one shuffle throughout the night. So today, we're going to dig in, understand what makes a shuffle work, and how to develop a rock-solid feel that will have musicians all over blowing up your phone to play with them. So let's break it down. As always, before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and share with your friends if you're digging the content that I'm putting out. All right, so a shuffle is just a groove that's based around a broken eighth note triplet pattern where you play the first and the last triplet while resting on the middle one. I'll explain. Triplets are made up by playing 3 beats for every quarter note. So if my quarter note's right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll play triplets like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are several ways to count triplets. Some people like to say 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Other people like to say 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4 lolly. I like to use the phrase 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's what I'm going to be using to demonstrate for the rest of the video. To play the shuffle pattern, you want to play on all the numbers and all the uhs while resting on the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Before you go any further, it's really important that you take the time to get comfortable with that pattern on both of your hands. All right, so there's several variations of the shuffle groove out there, but I'm going to focus on what I believe are the 3 main shuffles that will get you through most gigging situations. Hey, real quick, if you've ever wanted to play feels like this, or like this, you should download my free guide called Mastering Linear Drumming, where I break down the patterns that every drummer should know in order to get comfortable with linear drumming, and then I give you 15 of some of my favorite linear drum feels in order to help you get started. So if that's something you think you're interested in, click the link down below to get your free copy. All right, back to the video. First up is the Chicago Shuffle. Some people might refer to it also as the Kansas City Shuffle. The Chicago Shuffle can be most notably heard on the famous blues song Sweet Home Chicago. And in this groove, the shuffle pattern is played on both the ride or the hi-hat and the snare drum, while the kick is being played on all the quarter notes. The hardest thing about this groove will be the snare drum part. You'll need to play the shuffle pattern very lightly while accenting on the 2 and the 4. This means that you're going to have to get really comfortable playing a soft note that's immediately followed up by an accented note. So you'll want to isolate this motion for a bit and really work on it. All right, before we go on, let's take a minute to talk about feel. The shuffle groove in and of itself isn't that difficult to play technically, but having the right feel is everything when playing this groove. My teachers always told me to envision a bicycle tire. When you have a perfectly round tire, everything flows smoothly and evenly. Shuffles are not even and they're not pretty. They're gritty and rough around the edges. So you want to imagine that tire with a big old flat spot in the rim and play the shuffle pattern with a bit of a hump to it. Also, you have to listen to lots and lots of music with shuffle grooves in them and internalize the feel of different drummers. This is the only way to play this groove authentically. I'll list a link to a playlist with some of my favorite shuffles in the description below. All right, next up is the Texas Shuffle. The most famous example of this is probably the song Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan. This groove has the shuffle pattern on the snare drum with accents on 2 and 4 and quarter notes on the kick, just like the Chicago Shuffle. The difference is going to be in the ride part. On the ride, we're going to play the famous jazz swing pattern. The trickiest thing about this groove will be developing the coordination between both of your hands. You'll notice that your hands will be hitting together on every note except for the of 1 and the of 3. A common embellishment that many drummers use while playing the Texas Shuffle is to buzz the snare drum note right before beat 1 and right before beat 3. When you get comfortable with the main groove, give this a try. Last up is the famous Halftime Shuffle. Babylon Sisters with Bernard Purdie on drums and Rosanna with Jeff Porcaro on drums are the gold standard for this groove. All right, let's talk about halftime for a minute. In a standard groove, you'll normally play eighth notes on the hi-hat, 2 and 4 on the snare drum, and then some kind of steady kick drum pattern. Halftime gives us the illusion that things are slowing down by playing that same eighth note pattern on the hi-hat, but instead of playing 2 and 4 on the snare, you're going to play beat 3, and then you'll play beat 1 on the kick drum. In a halftime shuffle, you'll play the shuffle pattern on the hi-hat, but instead of playing beats 2 and 4 on the snare drum, you'll play beat 3, and then your kick is free to play whatever fits the song best. The most popular version of the halftime shuffle is the Purdie Shuffle. Bernard Purdie created this groove by putting a ghost note on the snare drum on that middle triplet that we've been skipping up until now, while still hitting a strong accent on beat 3. This poses a similar challenge to the Chicago Shuffle that we mentioned earlier, but in reverse. In this groove, you'll have the accent on beat 3 and then immediately follow it up with a ghost note. Dynamics are super important when playing shuffles, so I recommend isolating this pattern and really getting used to how it feels to hit an accented note followed by a ghost note.